Shri Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Yasodanandana Braja Janarandana Yasodanandana Braja Janarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astotar Saraswati A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Kodanatai Mayapur Shashi Ki Jai. Shri Tulsinath Ki Jai. Shri Karuna Bhavan Ki Jai. Lord Chaitanya's Harinama Sankirtan movement Ki Jai. Transcendental book distribution Ki Jai. Go Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru Ngrang. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirasesha Sanyavadi Pastacharya Shatani. Hare Krishna. We have more chairs. Are they allowed to sit on the floor? You're allowed to sit on the floor? It's uncivilized, huh? I was just thinking, you were seeing this as more and more of a natural, well, not just natural, maybe a phenomenon. Getting old, you know, back ache, leg ache, everything ache. It's amazing. I mean, if we put the clock back 50, can you imagine this, Travangananda, 50 years ago? Like more than half the devotees in the temple room sitting in chairs in the temple, 50 years ago. I don't think we had a chair. I can't remember seeing a chair. There was one in the office. I can't remember any other chairs in the whole building.
We didn't have beds.
I don't even know if we had a chair in the office, actually. We sat on, the temple president just sat on the floor on a cushion.
If he was lucky, he'd have a cushion.
If you had lucky to have a cushion, yeah. That's a fact.
We didn't have a floor.
You didn't have a floor, no. Lucky to have a floor. Oh. That was interesting. Okay. As you say, what to speak of cushions or beds or, old age creeps in, and what have we? We're probably not quite as fit as we could be. So anyway, if you need a chair, presumably you need a chair, you're doing well. You're okay back there. We can still sit on the floor, but usually we sit on some kind of chair. Hare Krishna, well, it's nice to be back in Karuna Bhavan, under the shelter of Kodinatai Mayapur Shashi with wonderful devotees here. I'd like to also, I'm also just arriving, but it's nice to see our godbrother Tribhangananda Prabhu again here in the north. I think we've been together here a couple of times on Rath Yatras maybe, probably in the past. Wonderful Rath Yatras here in Scotland, huh?
Yeah.
Edinburgh, Glasgow. Have you had them anywhere else?
No, next year maybe.
Lesmahago next year.
Yeah, we did have one here.
On the property, yeah. I think I was here actually.
Some years ago.
I think so. I think I was here for that. Maybe you've had more of it. And you have your holy festival this year?
Yes, 2 weeks ago.
Pardon?
3 weeks ago.
Did you? Didn't rain?
No.
We were lucky.
It rained.
Lucky dry festival.
It rained before and it rained after on the day. It was amazing weather.
It was good, huh? That's nice.
There've been about 36 Rath Yatras in the UK this year.
36, isn't that incredible?
And I call it the Jagannath Me Too movement.
Jagannath?
Me Too movement.
Me?
Everybody wants to do it.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's a very good idea.
Scotland to come. Good.
It's really a good idea. It's Prabhupada's great desire. If you may have read, I don't know who it was, to Devananda or somebody, Prabhupada wrote that letter that we will conquer the world with introduction of Rath Yatra and mass book distribution. So it's really, I mean, everyone can appreciate that the Rath Yatra festival, even if it's a small one by, say vision, mundane estimation, has an amazing effect on everywhere, on everybody and everywhere in that place, in that city or town. Incredible effect. I mean, never forgotten. It's something quite amazing. And what to say? Along with prasad and book distribution, it's really, and somehow or another, everybody's attracted. It's unique. Lord Jagannath certainly is the Lord of the universe. He's very, very attractive. People just look at Lord Jagannath. They don't know probably what on earth is this if you look at all. I've even seen at the Rath Yatra, we were on one Rath Yatra in Den Haag about 20 years ago, 15 years ago, probably more likely. And Jagannath arrived late. Too late, the police didn't allow for us to put him on the Rath car. We went all the parade with only the Rath car. Jagannath was in a car behind, traveling behind. And still, it was amazing. It was amazing. Amazing. The people were just looking at the cart. The Jagannath cart itself was not just a cart. It's also like a chariot from the spiritual realm, Amazing chariot. Wonderful. Yesterday, maybe the day before, we were in Newcastle, we were reading the glorious pastimes of Narottam Das Thakur by Sitala Mataji. And it was such a wonderful absorption. Did I come on to that? Of Narottam Das Thakur. And anyway, it will come up again. It slipped my mind talking about Rath Yatra there, what it was that I wanted to share. But it was such a wonderful experience. I don't know if you've read that book or not. The Glorious Pastimes of Narottam Das Thakur by Sitala Dasi. It's an amazing book. You've read it, isn't it a wonderful book? So nicely written and so like transformative, amazing effect that it has on one's heart, one's consciousness. Such a beautiful book by Narottam. Anyway, I'll say if something comes up, I'll repeat it. It was something I wanted to share, but it slipped my mind, my memory. But we'll go on. Are we reading Bhagavatam, or what are we reading today?
Bhagavatam.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 You're in Prahlad, pacifies the Lord with prayers. Oh my goodness. What a chapter. What a chapter. Well, I just remember what I was wanting to share by the mercy of Prahlad Maharaj. We were hearing about the holy festival which you had here. And sometimes there's a lot of question marks around this holy festival in ISKCON. Now, normally the holy festival is on the same day as Gaur Purnima, isn't it? Normally. At least in India. Now, it's not practical to do that unless you have a big indoor stadium of some kind in the West, or at least in the Northern Hemisphere, because the weather usually at that time of the year, one factor, maybe any time of the year in this part of the world, but particularly in March, the weather is not usually very favorable for such an event. Plus, you have your Gaur Purnima festival, which in of itself is a full festival. So we were reading. We couldn't stop reading because we shouldn't stop reading. not because we should always read. And this actually, I don't know if it's finished now. I think this is the World Shravanam, ISKCON Shravanam week. I'm not sure if it's started or finished, but it's about this time. I saw the advert last few days ago. It's kind of one of those things which is not emphasized enough. But it's like the World Holy Name Festival. Hardly anyone knows about it anymore. And the World Kirtan Week, the World Shravanam Week, and it's supposed to be maybe it's finished now, I don't know, maybe it never started, but the World Shravanam Week, and I don't know, we weren't thinking in those regards, but we somehow or other, by the mercy of Narottam Das Thakur, we were able to associate with him through hearing at least. So regarding the Holy Festival, and regarding the Gurpurnim Festival, as we know, the Gurpurnim Festival is, in one sense, our most important festival as far as in-house festivals go. Because the whole world has no idea, even if they have a little idea of Krishna, maybe they don't have much idea, but some kind of sentimental idea at least, or some theoretical idea, most of the world has never heard of Lord Chaitanya, practically speaking. Not yet. And most people don't realize this. We cannot approach Radha and Krishna unless we get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. This is the only way, really speaking, of the proper way of approaching Radha and Krishna. Otherwise we have some wrong idea, sentimental idea, or something short of the mark. And Lord Chaitanya has come, as you know, for this special purpose of flooding the world with prema, with love of God. Amazing. I mean, who are we? Who is anyone in this Kali Yuga particularly? Who is qualified? We may think we are or not, I don't know. But one can ask, who is qualified for such I can work this out, I'm very intelligent, I'm a very qualified person. We may think like that, but really speaking, who is qualified in Kali Yuga, which is an ocean of faults. But Lord Chaitanya has come in this age, and he's so mercifully showering the world with this almost impossible expectation, distributing pure love of God, not just, reverential love, not kind of love you could say, but reverential relationship, which most people, if they're all theistic, have some kind of concept of a reverential relationship with God. He's God, you're your servant, that's fine. But it's not what Lord Chaitanya is essentially, sharing with the world. He always shares that. That's the standard. But Lord Chaitanya's appearance is beyond the norm. It's beyond the norm, and his mission or his methodology, if we want to put it in our relative terms, is simple. It's absorption in congregational chanting of the holy name, either in the form of chanting the Mahamantra or hearing and chanting the pure Shastras or the Vaishnava Shastras. It's Sankirtan mission, sharing the glories of the Lord. It's so wonderful. It's such a simple and what can we say? We've got mountains of false ego. But the false ego is like a mountain. It doesn't seem to have any, you never seem to get to the top or bottom of it. It just seems to be unending. Sinful reactions and the false ego. We're identifying ourselves and judging everyone else according to our false ego, and so on and so forth. It seems like an impossible task. But we can read, and Tribungananda Prabhu will correct me if I'm wrong. I may be wrong entirely, in fact I probably am. I'm usually wrong. It may be in the third canto, perhaps in the teachings of Lord Kapila Dev or something, but wherever it's from, the subject matter is amazing. Where the discussion is there how Lord Shiva, maybe it's in the fifth canto, I don't know, but how Lord Shiva takes upon his head the Ganges, the water that washed the lotus feet of the Lord, isn't it? A beautiful verse. And Shiva means auspicious, but he becomes even more auspicious by taking that water, which has touched the lotus feet of the Lord upon his head. It's a beautiful verse. And it describes, because that water, that the lotus feet has touched the water, the lotus feet of the Lord. Just like the words of the pure devotee, they're also described, I think it's in the 4th canto, how the words of the pure devotee, they may materially speaking not sound so eloquent or sound materially attractive, like, some kind of Gandharvika's voice or something, Gandharva voice, but they are transcendently potent because they've come from the lotus feet of the Lord. They've picked up the saffron dust from the lotus feet of the Lord. Now, the pure devotees shower that saffron dust in the dirty hearts of all the conditioned souls of this world. Purified. The heart becomes purified by receiving that saffron dust. So similarly, the water of the Ganges purified. But the essential factor of that verse he described, because of the lotus feet, because it touches the lotus feet of the Lord, a meditation on the lotus feet of the Lord is so powerful that just as the thunderbolt of Indra, you've heard of Indra? Lord Indra, he has a thunderbolt. What does he do with his thunderbolt?
It's a weapon.
Yes, he uses it as a weapon, and he smashes things with his thunderbolt. There is described, he smashes mountains to dust with his thunderbolt. Very powerful. Thunderbolt. He tried to do that with Govardhan Hill, but it didn't work. There's a higher factor than the false ego and mundane perception, you could say. But that's normally in the material world. With his thunderbolt, he can smash mountains to dust, practically speaking. So Srila Prabhupada describes in the purport how meditation on those lotus feet smashes to pieces the mountain of false ego and sinful reactions, which basically is all we know. We try to hear something about Krishna, but we're living in this kind of like bubble of, and it can be burst or smashed. And that means hearing about, from the right source, Nirvita Trishna Upagiyamanad Bhavoshiti Chotumanobi Ramat Kuutama Shloku Grananavatat. Isn't it? This famous verse, when we hear from those who are Nirvita Trishna, those who are not in any way, say, controlled by the false ego. They have no interest in seeing everything according to my imperfect perception. This is the nature of this world. Everyone thinks they're right, and everyone measures everything. We all do from our own angle, our own interpretation, our own whatever it may be, our attachments and so on. So that's the whole process of Lord Chaitanya's movement is based on this Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadeva Agnindavarpanam. The clean is dust from the heart. This is the basis, the foundation. And otherwise everything else is nice to hear it and nice everything else, but we've got to clean that dust from our hearts. Even if we are very learned, even if we feel that we're, whatever we may feel, but if the heart is still dirty, if we're still attached to this world, and if we're still seeing ourselves, and we still get affected by the dualities and so on, we can understand that there's a little bit of dirt still left inside there, which needs to be cleaned out. And the process of clearing it out is a simple process. Nifutatarshir upagiyamanad bhavoshiji chotumanobiyamat. Our heart becomes cleansed by Kautama Shloku Gunanavadat, by hearing the transcendental messages of Godhead. You can see this, we'll hear this again and again throughout all the scriptures, the importance of hearing from the right source, the right subject matter. And topics concerning Krishna, as the Radharani herself expresses in the Gopi Gita, isn't it? Davakatamritam taptajivanam kavipiriditam kaumashapaham shravanamangalam srimadatatam bhuvivinantiye burida janaha. How this is so important to hear. Of course, everything else we have to deal with, so many things, But the essential purpose of this is to develop this attraction. And ideally, I mean, we all know the challenges, we all know the realities of, well, realities, but the relative realities, we call them in this world, of what has to be done to maintain this, that, and the other. But the essential purpose behind it is to provide this facility for hearing and chanting the holy name, form, pastimes of the Lord, to awaken that with us. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said this is a sign of sadhana, didn't he? He said sadhana means activities which awaken this attraction for hearing and chanting. Otherwise, the so-called sadhana is an impediment on the path of devotion. Impediment. Especially this congregational chanting together, hearing and chanting together. The name, form, pastime, whatever it is. Of course, the process of devotional service, practical application, is a part of that. But it's meant to also awaken is the symptom, you could say, of our advancing a little bit, is when this attraction's there that we want to hear. We have to do many things, but we want to hear that. We're eager to hear, eager to hear. Unfortunately, we are eager to hear, but we may be eager to hear the wrong thing. Some criticisms, or some fault findings, or some mundane topics, or, we like to hear about our own, attachments and so on, or someone glorifying my conditional life. But that conditional life is not us. It's not us. It's a covering which is preventing us from our relationship with Krishna if it's not properly channeled, if it's not properly engaged. Like Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj again, a very famous statement, isn't it? That one who thinks he can reform this world is in need of reform. No one can reform this world, not by the breadth of a hair. Everything is completely ordained by the Lord. Everything, not whatever happens, it may be, you could say, well, why does the Lord happen to want this? It's because he's reciprocating with us in a ways, ultimately for our spiritual benefit, to free us from the illusion that we're in about how we see Krishna consciousness or how we see the world around us, etc., etc. To free us from our false concepts or perceptions. So the only reform that is required is how we see the world, how we perceive it, which includes our own self, of course. And that can be evoked by exposing ourselves to the transcendental sound vibration of the holy name. Opening. Open the heart. Don't try to, filter it, measure it, fight with it, whatever it is we do there inside the whatever, you know what I mean. Let the holy name cleanse us. It's like the sun, Let the sun shine, Krishna Surya Sam, Maya Haya Andhakar. Let that sun of Krishna cleanse away the darkness of illusion in our hearts. Such a simple process, isn't it? It sounds simple. We all know the challenges there. We have a few things to work through before we wake up. Anyway, Prahlad Maharaj, 1976 and 1977, in Mayapur, Srila Prabhupada spoke on this chapter, the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj, at a festival every single day. You were there in 76 or 7, I think? 77, I think you were here, wasn't it? You were there? I don't know, I can't remember.
remember, to be honest.
No. Yeah, it's something I always remember because, it was our first trip to India, 76.
77, I understand.
Yeah, I thought you were there in 77. I got this memory that you went in 77, because I didn't go in 77, I went in 76. I had to stay back. We didn't go every year. I mean, it was like a privilege to go to India in those days, At 76 we went, and Prabhupada was speaking on these wonderful verses. Prayers of Prahlad Maharaj. They're probably one of the most famous, maybe prayers of Prahlad. Maybe the most famous prayers in the Bhagavatam, I don't know. But they're certainly amongst the most famous prayers in the Srimad Bhagavatam, are they not? For practicing devotees particularly, but not just practicing devotees. Even Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, lists with the majority of devotees, this subject, Prahlad Maharaj, particularly prayers and the subject matter of Prahlad Maharaj, was the prominent discussion, along with Dhruva Maharaj. Well, you could say, why? Well, with different devotees, it may have been different. But for the majority of devotees, we have to realize that we do have a few material attachments. We may, I don't know, I must say, I can't say you, maybe you don't have any, but I have, I think I still have one or two, I'm not sure. And they're not just attachments to eating chocolate or eating ice cream or having a nice car or going on holiday or having a big house, or attachments to girls or boys or whatever it is, sport or music or something. But it's an attachment much deeper than that, isn't it? And that's where that's the real root. It's not just on the surface. You can battle those off by willpower or by adjusting things a little bit, maybe. But the root's still there. The root is still there, this false ego, or whatever it is in our hearts, heart of hearts, a lack of actual Krishna consciousness there. And anyway, whatever. So Dhruva Maharaj, he approached the Lord with material intentions, I believe. My memory serves me right. Is that correct? Those who are very great scholars, you may know this subject matter of Dhruva Maharaj. He wanted to basically to be the greatest possessor in the universe, basically, wasn't it? He wanted a kingdom greater than his grandfather. That means the universe, basically. This is his grandfather, Swayambhuva Manu. So what can you have greater than that? Means you've got to be Lord Brahma. Pretty big kingdom. But even Lord Brahma can get a little puffed up with his kingdom sometimes, Even our Paramaguru. It's amazing how, these are warnings to us. Lord Chaitanya is teaching us. All the great devotees who come into this world, even the Lord, when he comes into this world, in one sense, he behaves like an acharya also. He accepts initiation, he appears to be practicing devotional service sometimes, They're giving us this chance to get out of this illusion that we're in, this illusion. And hearing the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj is when we hear with great attention and deeply, a very powerful medicinal effect it can have on us to change our inner intentions. Sometimes sometimes always, maybe in my case, always hoping that, I hope that everyone likes the class. I hope that everyone will put it on the news, onto the, YouTube or whatever it is. And that can come into our life sometimes. I'll be recognized. I hope I'll be recognized. I hope I get praised. I hope, that nobody will criticize me. All kinds of different thoughts sometimes pop up in our self, in our mind or whatever. All this is kind of like a little bit of a sign of false ego, huh? A little bit. Prahlad Maharaj's prayers are devoid. He's Nivritta Trishna. He's an acharya. His prayers, and the prayers of the great devotees are not just some. I used to have, and still do to a certain extent, all of just the prayers. Let's skip over to the subject matter. It's like you kind of just skip over them very easily sometimes, as if they're not very significant. Whoever they are, the Yagyapatnis or whoever it may be. What to speak of the personified Vedas, you kind of just quickly jump over them or browse through them or something. That tendency can sometimes be there also. But that means all the more we are the one who needs to hear those prayers. If we have that tendency. That means that Krishna's pointing this out to us. Ooh, wait a minute here. We got to have the opportunity to hear from these Nivritta Trishnas, these pure devotees, or the Lord himself in the case of Lord Chaitanya. So Dhruva Maharaj had material attachments when he approached. He didn't even know who God was. He just thought from his mother, he heard that God was, could give him what he wanted. That's the fact. In a way he didn't expect, of course. He was fortunate. He had the association of a pure devotee of the Lord, Narada Muni, and he was transformed by the words of Narada Muni. He followed those words faithfully with the intention of getting his goal. But such is the purifying effect of hearing from a Nirvita Krishna, a pure devotee of the Lord. And he faithfully followed it. He was chanting mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All that was going on. By the grace of Narada Muni, he received the mercy of the Lord. But once having received that mercy, of course we all know that his desire for a kingdom greater than his grandfather dissipated. He compared it to a piece of broken glass, which nobody really wants. Can you sell, well, maybe you can sell broken glass on the market, I don't know. But I've not seen many people selling that. I don't remember seeing anyone selling pieces of broken glass. But maybe, I'm not saying there isn't. But generally it's not given much value, is it, broken glass? Not really. It's annoying. It's very disturbing. Very disturbing. You may have to pay. Huh? Dangerous, disturbing. You may have to pay to get rid of it. You definitely have to take time to get rid of it. Then even getting rid of it is sometimes a problem. You know, it doesn't. It's like, you know, it definitely isn't a favorable thing. So he compared it. It's amazing. Hey, Gandhiki, you're hiding behind the curtain. Hare Krishna, good to see you, boy. Haribol. So he compared all of his aspirations to broken pieces of glass. Can you imagine? The kingdom greater than his grandfather. And we're trying to get our little kingdoms, getting some followers, getting some recognition, getting some facilities, and God knows what. But all pieces of broken glass, no ultimate significance. And he took shelter, completely surrendered to the service of his Guru, Narada Muni. Made that as the very purpose of existence. And of course Krishna gave him that fulfillment, you could say, of his desire as well, because he was now ready. He was ready. There was no false ego, there was no intention of trying to enjoy it separately from Krishna. It's Krishna's. There was no, self-centered or selfish motivation anymore. Taken away. So that's to be taken away. Prahlad Maharaj's prayers also, you can see many things, and from the top of our head we haven't thought about it, but it was like immediately, what do you get from hearing Prahlad Maharaj's prayers, or anything about Prahlad Maharaj? What do you ascertain from this pastime of Prahlad Maharaj and his relationship with his father and Lord Nrsingadev and whatever? What do we get from this? What lesson are we getting from this?
He's not resentful, and he remains compassionate.
That's a pretty nice one, isn't it? Prahlad Maharaj was not resentful. He had pretty good reasons to be resentful. These days it's almost like the status quo. No, it's not the right word, is it? It's almost like the norm to be resentful nowadays in society. It's something called wokeism I've heard about. It's almost like the policy. Get your own back on people who you feel you've been exploited by or something. It's almost like the norm nowadays. Hold grudges, almost, It's, Prahlad wasn't like that, was he? He had a pretty good reason to. What was his reason? If you qualify it as a reason.
He was tortured.
Yeah, his dad gave him a bit of torturing, didn't he?
Child abuse.
Child abuse. Pretty serious case of child abuse. Pretty serious. Pretty serious, if ever there was one. Indeed. But how did he take it?
In the spirit of love of Krishna.
In the spirit of love of Krishna. How did Haridas Thakur take it? He wasn't a child, he was beaten in the marketplaces. That was also Prahlad at that time, being beaten. How did he take it?
For his tormentors.
For his tormentors. He wasn't just tolerating. Sometimes we hear just tolerate it, Prabhu. But he wasn't just tolerating. He was actually praying for the welfare of those tormentors. Prahlad was the same. He was praying for his father's welfare. You'll see that in the prayers. He was praying for his father's welfare. Quite something, huh? Was he tolerating? Yeah, you could say, but what is that tolerance? He just took shelter of Krishna, just like Ambarish Maharaj. We see, what is that, 8th or 9th canto? Ambarish Maharaj. He was praying. He wasn't praying, save me, protect me even. He wasn't even praying for protection. Whatever you want, tattenu kampam susamikshaman, bunjana evatmikut Tavipakam. That the devotee doesn't even, we may not be on that advanced level, we're at mixed levels, but pure devotees like that, they're showing us the ultimate purpose of it all. It's not to protect our material position or our whatever. It's to take complete shelter of Krishna, depend totally on Krishna. We see that with Ambarish. He was just taking shelter, do what you like with me. And the same thing with Haridas. When he was punished, he said, actually, I deserve to suffer more. I got away lightly. The punishment I had was just a drop of what I deserved, he said. I deserve to be punished so much more. I'm so sinful. I heard blasphemy in the court of the Nawab. I deserve to be punished much more. What can you say? But they're acharyas. They may be appearing as practitioners, but they're actually, showing us that path, you could say. So Prahlad Maharaj is showing us a path. So that's one thing. He wasn't resentful in any way of whatever happened to him. I'm going to tolerate this now, but when I get out of here, I'm going to get my own back. That tendency sometimes comes up, doesn't it? We hold a grudge for somebody because we think that they mistreated us or whatever it is like that. What else? We could go on, that's a big topic. What other lesson? Fearless, okay, that's another very vivid, you could say vivid, very vivid. I mean, can you imagine how he, a little boy, 7 years old or whatever he was, his great father who conquered the universe practically, even the demigods were bowing down to him, at least the lower ones. And, everyone was like submitting to him, but his son wasn't. And, you can read these statements there in the earlier chapters of this canto, how Prahlad Maharaj boldly challenged his father right in his face, Fools like you, he just called his father a fool, I mean, can you imagine? Think that the goal of life is to, control, conquer, enjoy your senses. But you can't even conquer your own senses, Dad. You're just a fool. Just a fool. And you can't understand Krishna. Matirna Krishna paratoks fatova mito vipadyeta gihavitam. You're too attached to your family. You're too attached to sense gratification. You can't understand this. Like a blind man leading the blind. Nate vidur vartagatim hi vishnam. The whole world's like blind people. He just challenged his dad like this. At every stage. He didn't challenge his dad exactly. That wasn't the point. The point was he was speaking the truth. He wasn't challenging. He wasn't like on an ego trip challenging his dad to beat him. He was just speaking the truth. And when we speak the truth, you're fearless. He was connected with the truth. There's nothing to lose. I was reading Prabhupada was saying this morning, he was saying, just like our devotee, he can challenge the biggest scientist in the world, although he knows nothing about science. The scientists, Prabhupada himself said, they're so far much more learned in that subject, so to speak, if you want to call it science. But because the devotee is taking complete shelter of Krishna, he's fearless.
Nescience.
Pardon?
Nescience.
Nescience?
Nescience.
Nescience, yeah. They call it science, but it's nescience. So the devotee takes shelter. It's like Prabhupada gave the example of a child, little child, but when he's holding his father's hand, he doesn't have any fear. Even though there may be cause of fear, he doesn't fear because he's holding Daddy's hand, Isn't it? I don't know if you had that experience or not, but that's what Prabhupada said. And so like that, otherwise we're afraid what people will think of us. We're afraid that, they're not going to accept what I say, or afraid of so many things, being made to look a fool or something like that, becoming bewildered or something. Because we haven't really taken shelter. Fearlessness is not possible as long as we identify with, as we read in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam, I don't know the Sanskrit, but the fear is due to identification with the body or this material world. There's bound to be fear. There's falsity. And one who's identifying with Krishna, there's nothing to fear, because everything that exists is under Krishna's control. He's everywhere. There is nothing to fear. Even the modes of nature, they're Krishna's energy. Even the person who appears to be a demon or whatever it is, what is there to fear? We see this again and again in the teachings, especially in the Bhagavatam, this fearlessness. Fearless. When we remember Krishna, Krishna is feared by fear personified, the holy name of Krishna. Chant Hare Krishna, feared by fear personified. That's right there in the beginning of Bhagavatam. Isn't it? Feared by fear personified. This world is full of fear. We're in the darkness of ignorance. Darkness means fear. Ignorance means fear will be there. Death, whatever it may be. So that's another one, fearless. Very amazing how Prahlad was fearless, even at the point where he said, where he's challenging, So Prahlad, you say there is some God greater than me. Where is he? I don't see him. Where is he, Prahlad? He's everywhere, Father. Oh, I don't see him anywhere. Where is he? Okay, if he's everywhere, is he in this pillar, Prahlad? Is he in the pillar? Yes. He's in the pillar. He's in the pillar. Hiranyakashipu wasn't convinced, was he? Not yet. He was swaying his sword around, but he took his fist and he went, then I'll kill him! Smash. Well, he had a surprise coming his way. Prahlad actually is described, I know it's not in the Bhagavatam, but in the Nrsimha Purana, I think it's Nrsimha Purana. It's described that actually Prahlad could see Lord Nrsimhadev. He was actually, don't worry, I am here. He was looking around the Hiranyakashipu, he couldn't see him, but Nrsimhadev saying, don't worry, I'm here. It's all right, don't worry. Prahlad could see him poking his nose around there. Anyway, that's what it says. But even if that wasn't the case, he was still confident and absolutely fearless. Prabhupada was fearless in Calcutta when the bombs were coming down in the Second World War. Most people were leaving. It was just another form of Krishna. Another form of Krishna, that's all. We may not be on that level, but I would see everything in relationship with Krishna. How a devotee sees it, whatever it may be. So fearless. What else can we take from this pastime of Prahlad?
Compassion for all the living beings suffering in this material world.
That's a very big lesson. I don't know what verse you're on today. We'll have to deal with that tomorrow. I'm afraid we haven't got time today. But every verse is so powerful. So powerful. I think you've already read that famous verse. Anyway, somewhere there's so many very famous verses here. But there are, if someone knows where it is, you can look it up and we can read that verse. There's one verse here, 2 or 3 verses actually, distinct verses. Who can find it? If I look through here, I can't, then that's all I'll be doing. They're there. If we don't find them today or someone can't find them, then we'll find them tomorrow. But compassion is one of the major qualities of a pure soul. 26 qualities, you see, compassion, equal to all living entities, magnanimity, mercy to others. It's kind of all related. Why is this? Because, well, compassion. Who is the personification of compassion?
Lord Nityananda.
He's the link. Ultimately, and who? Yeah, but Radharani. Radharani is known as the compassionate aspect of Krishna, and of course, Lord Nityananda is the gateway. He is a manifestation of that compassion. And what is that compassion?
How to bring people back to Krishna, to real life.
This is Lord Nityananda's mission on the order of Lord Chaitanya. And if you go a step further, what is that?
To get Braj Bhakti.
Pardon? Prema Bhakti. But Lord Krishna cannot experience Prema Bhakti, can he? At least not Krishna Prema Bhakti.
Lord Chaitanya.
Lord Chaitanya. So what is Radharani's desire? We're kind of looking at it from another level. There's no separation in reality. They're all the same. They appear different. From Radharani's perspective, what is it?
To bring everyone back.
Why? Why?
Because that will please Krishna.
To bring more pleasure to Krishna. The compassion of a devotee is rooted in that, to increase Krishna's pleasure. It's simple. We've heard this 108 times more. Simple example, isn't it? Some of you have children. How many of you have children here? 3 or 4 of you have or had children. And say for instance the worst case scenario, your child is lost. You've gone to a fair, your child is lost, right? So your child is more dear to you than your very self, practically, isn't it? So what, if I want to help you, what am I going to do? Oh, don't worry about your child. I'll give you £1 million. Here, take this. Don't worry. I'll give you a free holiday and, wherever you want to go. Forget about that. Don't worry about it. It's not important. That's life. Never mind. Somebody will look after them. Don't worry. Will that satisfy the mother? Oh, I've got some. What's your favorite food? Oh, pizzas. I've got the best pizza here for you. Forget about your kid. Is that gonna work? It's not going to work, is it? The only thing is your child. The only thing. To bring that child back to the parents. Parents will probably give you a good reward if you do that. Usually that's the case, isn't it? It's mundane. But, bringing or reconnecting Krishna's parts and parcels with him. It's not that he's short. That's not the case. The positive side is there, to increase Krishna's pleasure, to increase it. That Krishna's parts and parcels are acting in a way which is not bringing pleasure to Krishna. So Lord Nityananda is the personification, or you could say, of that mission, or that aspect of, reconnecting all the living entities, no matter how fallen they are. Because that's the wish of Lord Chaitanya. That's Radharani's heart. Compassion. Compassion for Krishna, that his pleasure could be more. It's kind of funny, isn't it? But that's kind of part of it, It's like thinking Krishna's parts and parcels are not bringing in pleasure. Now you could say from the other side of the view, the poor souls are suffering. Fair enough, they're part and parcel of Krishna, but beyond that is really the Krishna. They're his parts and parcels. We're not individual, independent beings. We're meant to be his part and parcel. We're meant to be serving him. Compassion is the root, is the heart of Radharani, compassion, and manifest in this Sankirtan movement through Lord Nityananda's mercy and the Parampara. What else is there? Compassion.
Actually, it's 7944.
Oh, thank you very much. It's still to come. Oh, we're exciting. We've got it yet to come. Anyway, I'll read it now. My dear Lord Nrsimhadev. I'm going to read 2 verses, 43, 44. O best of the great personalities, Prahlad Maharaj says, I'm not at all afraid of material existence. For wherever I stay, I am fully absorbed in thoughts of your glories and activities. My concern is only for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies and countries. I'm simply concerned with love for them. They see it differently, of course. They think we're fools. They feel sorry for us sometimes. You poor fools, You don't have anything. You've wasted your life. You're misled. Yeah. Oh, whatever. Here, take it. We get that sometimes, isn't it? I remember in Oxford Street one time on Saturday, We didn't have it. One time I remember we had no shoes. We went barefoot on Sankirtan. Harinam. There were no shoes. And one lady came in here, I can't see people walking on the street with no shoes. Here, take a $5. Go and get yourself a pair of shoes. He gave me a $5. I didn't do it. Mundane compassion. Okay, so they do that in devotional connection, that's great. But they see it from a material perspective. So Prahlad is very sad that people are seeing everything from this material perspective. Because they're causing their own demise, their own continuation in this cycle of suffering, birth and death. And then the next verse. And people are making big, big plans, Prabhupada said. Big, big plans to adjust the miseries of this world. Always we're planning to adjust the miseries of that. As they say, they want the kingdom of God. Without God, we want to try to get rid of all. We want to make Vaikuntha, but you don't see, there's no God in there, so-called heaven or whatever it is. It's just a place for us to enjoy without suffering. They want to get there. They're making plans how to get rid of this, how to get rid of that. You were telling me yesterday, Prabhupada, about this. Someone was telling me about this charitable organization which is collecting millions and billions to help eradicate health problems or something, cancer or whatever it is. They think they can get rid of it like this, What an illusion. They have no idea that, okay, maybe they get rid of smallpox or something, but then another kind of pox comes along. Monkeypox now, isn't it? Monkeypox. Something else comes along, cancer, this thing, that thing. Mental disease. Huh? COVID pox. All kinds of pox. Bed pox? All kind of poxes come along. You can't avoid it. It's the nature of this world. Karma being what it is, no one can step aside from karma. You may not get it that way, you'll get it that way. Isn't it?
Inventing new ones.
Inventing new ways to suffer. Well, that's all they're doing, really. They're just inventing new ways to suffer, that's all. They get rid of that one. That one's a bit out of date now. That one's out of date. We've got a new one now. And don't worry, we've got the remedy to cure it. The remedy is very good because it will cause another one too. So you'll have to spend all your money on getting the other remedy also. They're very expert at keeping everyone in this illusion. Kali Yuga is like that. It's a famous story, isn't it? From Afghanistan. Anyone been to Kabul? Kabul? No. No one? I never went. I always wanted to. And when we were hippies, everyone was on the trail, what was it, from Amsterdam to Kathmandu, it goes for Kabul. Magic bus. Yeah, exactly. And it was, we'll get into that. Kabul. There's this story of this merchant, this rich merchant, and he had a servant. He sent the servant to the marketplace one day to buy various things in the marketplace. Because I guess they were Muslims, I don't know. And the servant, when he was in the marketplace, he had the shock of his life. He was terrified. He saw this dreadful creature who was actually death personified. He saw his death personified came before him, as if he was going to get him, And the servant ran for his life back to his merchant's, back to his master's home. Save me, save me. What's wrong with you? I just saw death personified in the marketplace. What? Death personified? What are you talking? I got to get out of here. Please save me. I have to leave this place quickly. Death's after me. Okay, well, I know what you're talking about. Anyway, all right, if that's what you want. Here's my fastest horse. Off you go. He gave him a super fast horse. He rode off like a rocket towards Kandahar, another city in Afghanistan. A very fast horse. He felt he was safe now. He's got away from that place where death personified was lurking. So the merchant So what's this all about? I don't understand what he's talking. Let me go down the market myself and see if this is true what he's talking about. So whilst he was on his way to Kandahar, the merchant, the boss went down to the marketplace to check it out. And he looked at it, he couldn't see any death personified hanging around in the market. Then eventually in the corner he saw this creature. Merchant, he went after the merchant. And the guy's death personified. He said to death personified, he said, "What are you doing? Why are you scaring my servant like this? Why did you do that?" And then death said, "Well, I was wondering why he was in the marketplace here in Kabul when I have an appointment with him this evening in Kandahar." You can't escape it, you know. Unavoidable. There is no escape. Only taking shelter of the holy name of the Lord will free us, taking shelter of Krishna. Free us. So Prahlad, pure devotees, they're trying. It's not just like a magic wand that waves. Their compassion is to give us this opportunity to take shelter of Krishna. My dear Lord Nrsingadev, I see that there are many saintly persons indeed, but they are interested only in their own deliverance, not caring for the big cities and towns. They go to the Himalayas, or the Scottish Highlands, or the forest. Huh? Scottish Highlands? Lake Lomond, huh? Lake Lomond? How do you pronounce it? What's that, Lake Lomond? Lake Lomond. Loch Lomond. Loch Lomond. For their own deliverance, huh? Not to the forest to meditate with vows of silence, Mona Vrata. They are not interested in delivering others. As for me, however, I do not wish to be liberated alone. Leaving aside all these poor fools and rascals, I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Therefore, I wish to bring them back to your shelter at your lotus feet. And then you read the prayer of Prabhupada, Markane Bhagavat Dharma. You can read that every moment of every day. Ever fresh realizations, ever fresh connections are there. Realization that this is the root of this Sankirtan movement. This is the root. Everything else is just paraphernalia. Temples, methodologies, all the different things we do. Paraphernalia to achieve the objective behind it. And the mood, Prabhupada sets the mood of Prahlad Maharaj. He's not thinking, I'm going to bring them back to Godhead. He desires that they go back to Godhead. And he's praying that the Lord be merciful like this. Prabhupada was praying, please give them the understanding that they can understand this message of Srimad Bhagavatam. They're covered over, totally covered by the modes of nature. I do not know how my words will be understood, how they will understand these words. I have no qualification, I have no devotion. I'm the most fallen, unqualified. If you so desire, you can help them to understand these words. They're not mine, they're yours. I desire this, but ultimately it's entirely up to you. Total dependence on Krishna. Whatever you desire, I'm your puppet. You can make me dance if you like. You must have brought me here for some reason, whatever it may be, to this hellish place. If you so desire, then you can do as you wish. This mood of pure devotee, he doesn't think, I'm coming, I'm doing, I'm this, I'm that. Do as you like with me.
Please make my words suitable.
Suitable for their understanding, exactly.
That's why you've written all these wonderful books.
That's right. Please make my words suitable for their understanding. Not that everyone's ready to even suitably understand it. But if they're not, the path is still being prepared for them just by inattentively hearing something or coming across a devotee or seeing one of Prabhupada's books or touching one of those books. Isn't it? That's one of the reasons, we know for a fact that most people aren't going home straight away and burying themselves in the Bhagavad Gita when they get one on the street from you or wherever they get it. Isn't it? Many of them, they don't even know what to do with it. They leave it on a chair somewhere. We had a funny experience in Paris about 2 months ago, I think. Mananda, you were there? Maybe you weren't, I don't know. We were in La République. It was during the Olympic Games. We had the Olympic Games in Paris this year, so we made a big, we thought big, we invited devotees from other places to come, we're going to do a big Sankirtan. But they closed the whole city centre off. You couldn't do anything. You weren't allowed to chant, we weren't allowed to chant anywhere in the city. Absolutely no way. Book distribution was no selling of even a peanut unless you had their authority. We couldn't go near the place. We were just on the outskirts. There was only one place in the centre that you could go, which is like the Liberal Square, where they let all the people let their steam off. All the gay libs and everyone else just goes there and protest about anything under the sun. So we would go there and do Harinam. There weren't many other places we could go on book distribution. So we were there one day, and I have a book thing. I usually sit there and try to distribute books and chant as well. And this guy came up. Oh my God! He was full of bums. There's so many bums in Paris. It's like they're everywhere. It's just such a laying around. And they always come to just trouble. They sometimes push your table over and grab your money and things like that. You're on the constant lookout. So this guy, I knew he was one of those guys. He came up now. So I was kind of a little bit careful and kind of like keeping between him and the book table. He obviously was trying to grab something. And one of the doors came up with we call them Saptarishi set. There's 8 books in a pack, Krishna book, Bhagavad Gita, this one, that, and such, tied up in ribbons. And he said, "Oh, would you like to buy one of these?" And he gave him in French, of course. And he kind of scoffed off and walked away. About half an hour later, the same guy came back. No, about 10 minutes later, one of our back to actually, he did his first set to this guy from a foreign country. He was from Lithuania. This guy from Lithuania was rushing. He was on his way somewhere. I think he was going to see the Olympics or something. And he was rushing. He was a rich-looking guy. And he stopped and he looked and talked and said, "Please help me. I've been here all day. I haven't distributed a single book. Please take these books." The guy listened to him. He spoke English. And he was quite well-to-do. And he said, "I don't speak a word of French." He said, "Never mind. You're staying in a hotel? Yeah, give them to the receptionist." So the guy said, "Okay, what do you want?" He got out 50 euros and gave him 50 euros, ran off with the books. Then about 30 minutes later, this bum, who early on had came past, who was like, came by carrying that Saptarishi in his hand, looking at us, like, walked straight past us with the Saptarishi in his hand. The guy had already left it on a bench or somewhere, and this guy had picked it up. He took it away. I don't know what he did with it, but it's just amazing how Lord Chaitanya's mercy was moving like that, He got some little Agata Sakriti, and now he's moving forward. Interesting how it works. Anyway, book distribution never goes in vain. Never goes in vain. Same with Harinam Prasad. We make mistakes. As Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, he also describes it as the only infallible means of success is Sankirtan, the chanting of the holy names. All other processes of devotional service, they're all important, everyone, but they're not exactly the Yuga Dharma. The holy name, the Sankirtan chanting is the Yuga Dharma. They're all part of it, but the chanting of the holy name, he says, is the only infallible means of success. Infallible. It's the emperor. He described it as the emperor of all sadhana, chanting and hearing the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama
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 Hare,
Hare Hare.
and Srimad Bhagavatam. Jai. So we're ready? How many sets did we do during the Bhadra campaign this year? Did we manage any? You're too busy, I know it's... But try to get this into your congregation. You may be very busy and you may have other priorities, and that's a fact. But the congregation, this movement is a congregational movement. Sankirtan is congregational. Very word is used, isn't it? Congregational chanting of the holy name. They can do amazing. You know, I'm sure I saw yesterday Pratap and his wife, wonderful devotees. I'm sure there are many more. Try to get them in the spirit of sharing Krishna consciousness. And where are you going today to distribute? You're just doing Bhagavad Gitas, or what do you distribute?
No, we have about 70 boxes of books to go to prisons and hospitals.
They're like packs of different books inside, or what?
Yeah, a whole collection.
All over Scotland, or where do they go?
Well, I've got to go a fair few places. Maybe
You have some bookings already, or you're just presenting them?
They are actually books that have the different trusts and the different chaplains and prisons have agreed to take for their residents and their visitors and their inmates.
Amazing, isn't it amazing? Isn't that amazing? What a change. You know, so you're delivering to like the main office, or you go to each and every one?
Well, I'm going to different prisons. I've got in the next couple of days about 8 or 10 different prisons to go to where they've requested boxes of books.
Mm-hmm.
And yesterday I went to one Borders hospital, and they've taken 15 boxes of books.
Oh, okay, so the boxes of books have different books in, and they're not just one box per place, many boxes.
The idea is that they can put a box of books in each hospital ward.
Okay.
So that they can all,
everyone
can take advantage of it.
Yeah. That's amazing, absolutely amazing.
And the prisons, they, sometimes the prisons are long-term prisoners, sometimes they're short-term, so they have a turnover of prisoners, so sometimes we get repeat orders.
Amazing. Oh, they can take them away, the prisoners, too.
Yeah.
They're not like library books. They can actually take them away if they're interested.
It depends on the different policy in the prison.
I see.
But the idea is, if they don't get them, they're never going to get a chance to read them.
That's a fact.
So, I went to this one prison in Dartmoor, very famous prison, and I took many, many boxes of books there. And the warden who was receiving the boxes in the early hours of the morning, he said, "What are all these about?" So I said, "Well, these books are actually to help people escape from the material world." With little pause in between.
Yeah, it must have put him on edge when you said that.
He thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I bet they will nowadays. Yeah. This is amazing. You can do this in the UK. It's against the law practically in France to do these type of things. Institutions, quite a secular situation. Especially educational institutions. There's no way you can approach that from. Of course, if they call you, that may be something different, of course. But one prison did order the books in France. One. In Paris, main prison. We sent them loads of books, including the Bhagavatam set. That was a couple of years ago, but no one else, absolutely no one else. And you can't do it. In libraries, they're not allowed to take these type of books, not allowed. Educational institutes, government policy. So it's a little bit more restrictive, you could say. No one's had the energy or time or intelligence or empowerment to find a way around it as of now, anyway.
What we have is a team. Some devotees, they devote a lot of time to phoning up these institutions and explaining how these books are on the original basis of yoga and meditation, and they can actually bring about a great relief from the suffering and stresses of everyday life. And when I've been delivering books, like a couple of weeks ago, I was in Devon and Cornwall. I went to about 250 care homes. So they're all getting packs of books. And when I explained to them that actually these are to help relief from the stresses and distress of everyday life, and the nurses and staff there were thinking, oh, we could certainly use some of that, because it's actually not just the residents who are on their way out and in a distressed condition in so many places, but the staff themselves are so stressed out.
Oh, it's a very stressful situation they're in.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
And this one place I went to, there were a dementia situation in certain care home, and the people, the residents were walking here and there and getting in the way, and the staff were running around, and the alarms were going off, and said, oh, sorry, I can't talk to you now, that's an emergency alarm gone off. And it was just like a madhouse.
Sounds like the world out in the street. It doesn't sound much different than the street, to be honest. Sounds pretty similar. At least in Paris, the centre of Paris is just like that. Like crazy, absolutely crazy.
They really need these literatures, some understanding that Prabhupada's trying to give.
Well, somebody should try to give that spark there. I mean, in France there must be a way of getting something more than what we're doing now, I'm sure. Well, it must be. Bookshops, occasionally we can do, but everything's centralized now. You can't, you can't go, all the libraries are centralized, everything's centralized. Even bookshops, the main bookshops is like, they have a kind of like, all online and everything's kind of centralized through warehouses and things. That's the idea, isn't it? To try to make everything controlled from one centralized corner. But there's still a bit of individuality left. At least the people are like that. Amazing program. Good. Well, that's wonderful to hear.
Prabhupada did say we have to rack our brains to try to find...
I haven't got any brains left. My brains they've all been racked. I'm finished. I might be in one of those homes. You might come and give me a set of books. I'll carry on the way I'm going.
I met one of our godbrothers in one of the homes.
You didn't, huh?
And
oh my goodness.
He was pretty far gone.
Yeah. There's quite a few have gone like that.
We took him prasadam, we took him some books.
Yeah.
And some association.
Tell me about it afterwards. Amazing. We managed to distribute during the Bhadra campaign some sets in France. We did 115 Bhagavatam sets on the Bhadra campaign, at least. Something. Between sponsored and sales, 50-50 maybe. I don't know. Mostly sales, actually. 3/4 sales. 25% sponsored. There's something. Throughout France. Nothing like you do over here in the UK, I know that. But still, it's not bad for France. We distribute books in French, of course, mainly French sets, which were printed 2 or 3 years back. And English, a lot of English sets go out. And a lot of Hindi, Bengali, Tamil. I think they're the 5 sets that we distributed mostly. Yeah. So anyway, it's a wonderful program to see people getting Bhagavatam. Wonderful. And then you follow up. Obviously the follow-up is important. And so on and so forth. But it's a great start. Get those Bhagavatam sets out there. You still have those little ones, still those small ones?
Bhagavatams?
Yeah, the small little ones, the little blue or white ones, whatever they were. All those sets are gone. They were amazing. Anyway, the big ones are there. The beautiful big printing.
The big ones are easier to read.
That's a fact. They're much easier to read. They cost more, but they're much easier to read. And a lot of people ask that. In fact, that happened recently. One of the sets we sold was because the person had the small one and they wanted the big one. They couldn't read it anymore. They were getting too old to read it, so they wanted the big one. Nice. Yeah. Get the sets in, and they just advertise. You don't even, sometimes, many sets were sold without doing anything. You just put it on your newsletter. You don't have to do anything. People order it. You don't have to do much to do that. You just have to put a little article or an advertisement there, a page dedicated to Bhagavatam or something. And some people, if they're lucky, some people will order it. Nice. Any books like that. I remember a few marathons ago, one of our devotees was on the Sankirtan, and he was interviewed. There was this guy from TikTok. TikTok is some kind of, what is it, some kind of Facebook similar thing, or what is it?
Kind of anti-social media.
Anti-social media, okay. Something like that. So this guy was like, you know, this big guy on TikTok. He had apparently he had like millions of people following on TikTok. You know. We didn't know that, so he didn't know that at the time. The guy was going around interviewing people on the street. It was one of the things he used to do. He used to interview unusual people on the street and, you know, ask them questions and, you know, try to make a sort of a show about it, you know.